Welcome to Hannity. Tonight, Joe Biden, he needs to pick up the phone. I suggest call Mar-a-Lago and, yeah, bring unity to the country as he says he so desperately wants. And thank President Donald Trump, because a few moments ago, he tried to take credit for everything that Donald Trump did on COVID-19. 3 vaccines, thanks to Donald Trump's Operation Warp Speed. There were already 1 million vaccines being administered into people's arms every single day when Biden was sworn in. 36 million doses had already been distributed. According to Joe, it was the Biden administration that stepped in, heroically saved America from COVID-19. None of this is true. Where's the unity, Joe?
I'm using every power I have as President of the United States to put us on a war footing to get the job done. Sounds like hyperbole, but I mean it, a war footing. And thank God we're making some real progress now. Now, because all the work we've done, we'll have enough vaccine supply for all adults in America by the end of May. That's months ahead of schedule.
That would be Moderna, that would be Pfizer, that would be Johnson & Johnson, and that would be your predecessor, President Trump, Operation Warp Speed. With all due respect to the president, he didn't have anything to do with that vaccine and had nothing to do with the Mars rover either. There you have it. Joe Biden, unity president that he is, taking credit for someone else's work. Joe, you want unity? Why don't you just thank Donald Trump? You want us all to get along, you say. No Trump, no vaccine, Joe. Stop taking credit for something, frankly, you had nothing to do with. Nothing. But I do need to give Joe Biden a congratulations tonight. Yes, he stayed up an hour past his bedtime. After days and days of practice, he was able to read from the teleprompter for almost 20 whole minutes without making a total fool out of himself. Now, the problem with this is people are going to say, see, Hannity, you did it. You did it. It's like, oh, Johnny hit the baseball. Good job. Is that the lowest bar possible for a president? Isn't it a little kind of sad that we even have to wonder or even discuss it? It's kind of sad to me. Let's be clear. Biden's ability to remain lucid tonight for 20 long minutes shouldn't be cause for celebration. This is a guy who is clearly not doing well, and the last 3 weeks alone have been extremely alarming. That is the sad truth. Now, since the early days of the campaign, we have been watching Joe and his daily struggles. That is, when his campaign rarely would allow him to leave the basement bunker. Yes, rare, but now Joe is clearly getting worse. And again, what we have seen just these past 3 weeks, not tonight, he practiced and practiced and practiced, and lo and behold, he got through the speech without fumbling the ball. But this is the last 3 weeks leading into tonight and the hours and hours of practice before tonight. Take a look.
I want to thank the former general. I keep calling him general, but the guy who runs that outfit over there. The vast majority of economists, left, right, and center, from Wall Street to the private economic polling initiatives. Now, am I supposed to speak, or is Swathi going to say something? Representatives Shirley Jackson Lee, Al Green, Sylvia Garcia, Lizzie Pinelli, Pinell, and what am I doing here? That over 500, I have a card, I carry a card with me every day with the total number of folks who have been affected.
Okay. So you see why Joe has gone 50 days with no official press conference. That's a higher bar. It's going to take a lot more practice. Biden administration knows the biggest liability of Joe Biden is Joe Biden himself. You can script a primetime address and you can practice and barely pull it off. You can script the State of the Union. And let me be honest, that's the easiest speech for any president to give. You walk in to applause, shake a few hands, you read 2 lines, you get more applause, you rest. You read 2 more lines, you get more applause, more rest time. But it's a little harder to script a press conference. That's going to take a lot more practice and, of course, help from a compliant news media. And by the way, when Joe actually decides to hold an official presser, So far, it's longer than any president in the last 100 years. I think the administration will probably, of course, try to orchestrate the entire event, just like they did the few times he did it on the campaign trail, pre-selecting a handful of pro-Biden reporters. In the meantime, the White House definitely does not want Joe answering any impromptu questions. We saw it happen again today. By the way, last 3 days, only one event on Joe's schedule every day, just one. After Joe signed the massive $2 trillion Schumer-Pelosi payoff into law, only 9% is emergency COVID relief. Take a look.
Got it. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
He did good tonight. He didn't have Joe Biden or Kamala Harris next to him. That's a rare thing. Just to put this into perspective, when President Trump was in office, members of the media mob, they had a mental breakdown if Trump didn't respond to Jim Acosta at fake news CNN and his personality and his insults hurled across the White House lawn. Now Joe Biden signs one of the biggest boondoggle spending bills that has zero, basically, for emergency COVID relief. Not a lot, 9%. Takes no questions. After refusing to give one single press conference during his entire time in office, the media mob barely yawns. There is a guy in the Oval Office allegedly running the country who appears to be struggling cognitively, and the mob cannot be bothered to do their jobs. They're actively, willfully putting their heads in the sand. That would be NBC, ABC, CBS, MSDNC, fake news CNN. Do any of you guys have any news divisions at all? Do you have journalists working for you or not? Now, to be honest with you and your viewers, if you're just a mouthpiece for the DNC, in other words, if you want to be a talk show host, I'm a member of the press, but I am a talk show host. I have opinions. I tell everybody up front, I'm registered conservative. And yeah, I like Donald Trump as president. Because during the Trump administration, the coverage was a little more aggressive, don't you think? According to nearly all of their coverage, Donald Trump couldn't do a single thing right. In fact, they predicted that the president's plan to develop and distribute COVID-19 vaccines, yes, known as Operation Warp Speed, would be an utter failure. He not only got it done and got 1 million in people's arms a day, 36 million total, but he did it while being impeached and tried twice. Pretty amazing. You might remember.
I think this is just further evidence that the Trump administration had no plan for distribution. Operation Warp Speed was really just a plan to address market failures in manufacturing and development and manufacturing of vaccines.
We'll have a vaccine by the end of this year. Is that possible in your view?
Oh, Brian, you know, it's another day of POTUS in Wonderland here. It is preposterous to make that statement.
Experts are warning that kind of timeline may be overly ambitious, and some have even argued it's perhaps dangerous.
A coronavirus vaccine, Trump says it could come out this year, this sort of, happy talk that he's doing about a vaccine. Experts say he'd need a miracle to be right.
Here's the thing. You cannot talk yourself into a vaccine. The fastest a vaccine has ever been produced from start to finish is 5 years.
You're right. Donald Trump did it in one, and you never give him credit for anything. Nothing he does is right. That wasn't happy talk, was it? Operation Warp Speed, thankfully, for the sake of the country and the world, was a huge success. Thank God for our great medical researchers and scientists and doctors and first responders. They did an amazing job. We all owe them a debt of gratitude. But there will be no retractions, no apologies. They will never correct the record. Instead, they will continue to act as cheerleaders for the radical Democratic Socialist Party, who's ever running the show at the White House.